Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Wake Up, Get Better podcast. My name is Chris Creed. I'm super stoked you're here. Today, we are talking with Alex Holguin. I'm super pumped to talk to Alex today. Alex is a breath facilitator. He's a designer and an artist, and his breathwork practices focus on transformational, regenerative, and performance breathwork. I don't know why I can't say that word, Alex, so we can talk about what it means to have breathwork, okay? Because I'm super interested in the healing effects of this, so we'll talk about it in a minute. But Alex is also a Jiu Jitsu practitioner, and that's initially probably what started our conversation, that in the cold exposure stuff. But dude, there's a lot of reasons that I wanted to talk to you today. But one of the things that I've noticed in life in general is that when you so let me give you an example of what I'm getting at here. So one of the prerequisites I have before I give people like podcast recommendations is I always like to ask, how weird are you? Before I tell you like what I'm going to recommend, I want to know how weird you are first. And I feel like that's kind of how I decide whether or not I'm going to be able to talk to people. So, but immediately when we met, I remember thinking like you were talking about cold exposure and you had a Jiu Jitsu sweatshirt on, and I was like, I feel like we should jam. So, man, I'm super stoked you're here. Yeah, let's just get rolling. How are you? What's going on? I hear some birds going on back there.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm fantastic. I'm waiting for the moment that because we are in Middle Tennessee, I'm waiting for someone to start mowing here in a minute, because no matter what, it's Murphy's Law. It always happens. Got a baby sleeping, got this, got all the stuff, and someone's like, well, I'm just going to mow, even though I mowed yesterday. But yeah, I am fantastic. Yesterday, actually, I did my first ever day-long breathwork and hypnosis retreat that I facilitated the breathwork portion of. And it was fantastic. I had a ton of different people. We had about 9 participants, and we got to do it like in the round. So everybody's head was in the center of this room that we were in, and it was on sacred land out in Ashland City, here in Nashville, and just like. It ended up being super cool. Had a few people have some pretty tremendous like letting go of old shit, and a few people floating, few people this, few people that, few people going to the moon, few people seeing things, lots of transformation, and it was really cool. And the majority of the people had done, either hypnotherapy or gone to see a psychiatrist or like a lot of talk therapy type stuff. And one of the women was she's the owner of the equine, the horse therapy that's out here, where she has a herd of horses, and people that are dealing with something, they go out and they use the horses to kind of see what's going on. Because horses, and she was explaining it to me, and it was the most fascinating thing I've ever heard, because you think of a horse as like this giant animal, super muscular, could kick you, could stomp you, run over you and everything, and she's like, in actuality, they're all just giant mice, because they're prey animals. If they were still like all out in the wild and everything like that, they're prey animals. When you think about a zebra, like in the Serengeti, it's a type of horse. Cougars, panthers, whatever's out there, chases them down. And so she was telling me that if you're calm, like if you've got your breath under control and all those types of things, you can walk up to them and they sense your energy right away, and they'll either bolt or they'll stay there and kind of rub on you. And if you've ever had an injury, they'll go to that injury. And people they always go out there and they're like, why are they're like sniffing around my back? Like, what's happening? And then later on, she finds out, like, why do you think they were sniffing around your back? And the person will say, well, I broke my back like 10 years ago, or I was stabbed there, or this happened, or this happened. And like, it was just wild, like just to see kind of all these strangers basically afterwards, talking about like, well, I saw this, or I saw my grandparents, or I felt this thing, and then I started like hyperventilating, and I started this, and I started that, and just like super cool,
dude.
Like really cool.
My first ever group breathwork thing, and we've talked about before about how there's something about breathing together when you like sync up to like that's really interesting to me, that something happens in the room, it seems like. And obviously you can have these experiences on your own too, but I remember we were doing this like deep, it was a Wim Hof workshop, and so one of the instructors, a couple of different Wim instructors were there, and a guy named Jesse Comer and my friend Dave Whitley. And I was doing it, and then my whole body is vibrating, like literally vibrating. And I don't know what happened, and I can't even tell you like where I went. But later, I opened my eyes, kind of blinked them open, right? And my friend Dave Whitley's standing over top of me, and he's this big, massive, like strong man dude. And he just looks at me, he's like, "So where'd you go?" And I was like, "I don't know, man, but it wasn't here. It's crazy." So that's so interesting. What is it about the breath that can do these things, that can like cause these journeys and the transformation and the regeneration? Like, what is it about that does that for you?
So, a few years back, people have been doing breath work. Like, I always get the people that are like, "Oh, I know how to breathe. What are you going to do? What are you going to do next? Teach me how to drink water?" Like, I know how to breathe. I've been breathing my whole life. And I'm like, haha, yeah, okay. Get it all out, and then we'll see when I lay you down and get you to cry like a little baby. We'll see how well you breathe. But, back in the day when it started, because even since, I want to say, in the 50s, physiologically and in terms of healthcare and things like that, pranayama's been around forever because yoga is super popular, and tumo breathing, which is what Wim Hof is based off of, that's ancient, Chinese Buddhism, and those guys
hyperventilation kind of.
Yeah, they go to the moon, and you can't get them out of it, and they're melting snow around them, and they're sitting outside in their underwear, just like staring into space, and that stuff, it just amazes me. But the transformational breath work that I take people through it's a very it's a very somatic type of breath work, and it all depends on the pattern. And I'm talking through the whole entire thing, and I've mentioned this to several people, because some breath workers that I know, they like to script their journeys. That way, like if they're doing a virtual journey, which is a thing too, you get almost the exact same experience if I do one with you virtually. I just can't touch you. And a lot of times the touch helps with pulling you out of something that you're really scared of, something that might be making you super sad, and you just need, kind of something to hold on to so you can let go and still feel safe. But the pattern, what the pattern does is it creates, and my suggestive talking through it, and then I have music, and I initially started with like spa type music, and I was just like, this is like so boring. Like, let's get some beats in here. Let's do some cool stuff, and let's have some drumming. Let's have some. And so I like to create a playlist every time I do a new journey. And there's a lot of like Arab trap music, like Asadi on there. It's got a lot of bass. So that depending on the room that I'm in, I used one of those little JBL speakers, and they're so loud, and they bring the bass. So if you can get a little bit of vibration in the floor and things like that, that makes it even better. And with this, as you consistently breathe in this pattern, and I like to warm people up with a resonant style breathing. So that's just 5 in, 5 out. And in actuality, resonant breathing is, I think it's like 5.2 seconds in and 5.2 seconds out. And what you're doing is you're just bringing your nervous system into resonance. You're just balancing everything. You have these waves of energy that are going through you. Every time you breathe in, you're going sympathetic. So you're like, and every time you exhale, you're going parasympathetic. And you do it throughout the day. And the reason it does that is so that your nervous system stays balanced. And we've talked about this before too. You start first thing in the morning, you get out of bed and you light your face up with that old, iPhone, and then your brain automatically starts going like, oh, I got to be on alert. I got to be on alert, because it doesn't know that there's an iPhone in front of you. It thinks that, there's a predator. There's something that I got to be on alert for. But as you continue, I put people into resonance. The music's a little bit slower. You might be able to groove to it, whatever you want. And most of the time, people are able to get a rhythm with it, and so they can match the breathing up with it. And my favorite breathing pattern is the 3-part breath, all through the mouth. So all you breath workers that love nasal breathing, I do too. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. That's just how this one's done. But you're going into your belly and your diaphragm and your intercostals and all those things into your chest, and then you're just letting the exhale fall out. And after about 5 or so minutes, I'd say 5 to 8 minutes, doing that breathing pattern, and it doesn't have to be super fast, it can be super gentle, just as long as you're breathing deep, the frontal part of your brain shuts off. So all the monkey chatter, all the fun to-do lists, or took me forever to get out here today, it took me all that stuff that's constantly going past our brains, it generally just shuts up. And it's been proven scientifically that front part of your brain shuts down, which then allows your subconscious to basically unzip, unhinge, open up, and then depending on what you're holding on to or what you've been holding on to throughout your life, some stuff might come up. You might have a trauma when you were 5 and you're like, I was over that, or I don't remember it. It'll come up out of the blue during one of these journeys, and I always say I like this type of healing because you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to make an appointment, sit down, start talking to someone. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I know tons of people who see therapists, and for them to talk about it is the most healing thing on the planet. But in my mind, if you're an assault victim, you have PTSD, you're a recovering addict, you're a recovering alcoholic, things like that, this is so great because you don't need to take any exogenous substances in order to start your healing journey. And sometimes it takes one journey, and sometimes it takes 5, and then sometimes people get addicted to going on these journeys because you don't have to take anything in order to go somewhere, to hallucinate, to just feel really good in your body, because you're just stirring all of this energy up in your body, your blood. You're hyperoxygenating your blood, and you can feel it in your hands and all those things. And then you get this thing called tetany, where your hands start to curl up on their own, and it's the craziest thing to see, because people they'll lift their arms because they think it'll mitigate it, but it doesn't until you return to normal breathing. So they're their arms are in the air during the middle of these things, and they're kind of like the last journey I did, it felt like I had my arms like this, and they were helicoptering from the shoulder sockets, and they weren't.
Weird.
Yeah, so it was like
Yeah.
you get all kinds of feelings with this, and you're releasing all kinds of stuff. In the realm of performance breath work, you can work with breath holds and superventilation and controlled hyperventilation and things like that, and you can release natural EPO, which comes from your hips. So EPO, I don't know the full word.
Yeah.
I just know the abbreviation. But it's basically you can naturally blood dope yourself.
Okay.
So if you were, a cyclist, an athlete, just any sort of athlete, when you're doing these things, when you're doing controlled breath work for conditioning purposes and things like that, and it usually comes out of your hips, and so you can blood dope yourself without giving all your yellow jerseys from the Tour de France back, and it's just one of those things. Like we've talked about this before too, like all of the technology that's inside of us that, when you breathe in a certain pattern, like for the transformational journeys, when you do that 3-part breath for an extended period of time and you're being talked to and everything, and I keep hitting my mic.
That's okay.
and you release these things because they've always been here in our bodies. The monks, the Buddhist monks, have been doing breath work for the last 5,000 years. Pranayama with yoga, pneuma. It's called breathwork is called pneuma in Greek. So the ancient Greeks and Romans were probably doing some sort of thing. They might not have called it breathwork. And it's always been here. We've always had it. And, even if you're doing it for 5-6 minutes a day, or, you're really into cold plunging, so you focus on your breath when you cold plunge, and mostly everybody does. But yeah, in terms of the transformational, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's fun for me, and it's rewarding for me to see people release those things. Mm-hmm. I've had several people, who I had no idea what they were going through, put them through a journey. They text me later that night or the next day, and they're like, hey, I haven't talked to my mom in 20 years because we got into a big fight, and I called her last night, and we're great now. And so, thank you. And to me, I'm just the guide. I just tell you, speed it up, slow it down. It looks like you might need this. You might need this. But to see people, open up, or to see people just change just a tiny bit from when they walked in, and feel their energy change, in an hour. That's the other thing too, is an hour goes by like that when you're doing the breathing. Everybody I've asked, in general, it's 20 minutes or less. They feel like they've been laying there, and they're like, what? We were breathing for an hour? No way. There's no way that's happened. And I'm like, yeah, look at the clock. And it's really cool, because for a while I was not really into, but I like the wearables. I used to have the Nike wristband. Tracked steps and did all this stuff. And I wore that thing out. I wore it till it just fell off and broke. But I think a lot of that stuff is cool in terms of, if you're a professional athlete, a college athlete, and you need to see those numbers because the coaching staff needs to see them, or maybe you've been concussed or things like that. Fantastic. Take those numbers and use them. But I think it pulls away a little bit from the intuitiveness of seeing what you need. Sitting there for 10 minutes and just breathing lightly and just being like, oh, wow, my shoulders hurt or my neck hurts. I wonder if I'm doing this all day long, like, or maybe
right.
every time I hear a certain word, I kind of do that, and it's, why do I do that? And then you can go there and unpack that, and then a lot of times people find out, well, when I was 15, I was at football practice, and my coach said that word in a sentence, and right after he said it, I got hit by someone catching a pass, and I had no idea they were there, and so every time I flinch when I hear that word, like things like that I think we've kind of pulled away from, because we're like, oh, we've got these cool gadgets to tell me how good I slept and how this and how that, and fantastic, but like, why don't you just wake up in the morning and feel like, did I sleep good or did I not sleep good? I woke up like 37 times last night. Why? What is it? Is it because we watch TV until 10 o'clock and then we try to go to sleep at 10:15? Or is it because, and I think that my biggest thing about the breathwork side of things isn't actually the breathwork. I think breathwork is phenomenal for all sorts of things. There's breathwork for digestion, there's breathwork for balancing, regeneration, transforming, trauma release, addiction release, like all kinds of stuff. You could do it till the cows come home, but the thing that it does best is it just makes you aware. It makes you aware. It brings back that awareness of, which I think a lot of people have lost. Like, if you start going to the gym and you're like, I just spent the last 2 weeks, I went to the gym every single day. And I got on the step mill and I did 45 minutes on the step mill, just drenched. But I'm still the same weight. I started eating better, I'm sleeping a little bit better, all that stuff, and that I don't understand. And you're like, well, is that all you're doing? Is like going and getting on the step mill? And it's like, yeah. And then I pull my phone out and I watch an episode of this, that, and the other, and I'm watching like documentaries and stuff like that. And I was like, well, there you go. You found out what you're doing, because every time you do something like, or you eat your lunch and you're looking at a screen because you have to be at your desk, you're automatically telling your system, like, don't worry about this exercise that you're doing. Worry about being on alert because you're watching this thing.
Yeah.
And again, I have nothing against technology. It's great. It's fantastic. It's done a lot. It's been super helpful to a lot of people in a lot of ways. It's helped me out. It's saved me from, I use technology to make playlists and connect to my Bluetooth speaker that's only like this big, but it sounds like it's this big, But it's that thing of just becoming aware again. Like every time you eat at your desk, and you might think, I've only got 30 minutes. I'll just watch this thing that I'm supposed to learn about, blah, blah, blah. You're just telling your system, like, this food that's coming into you right now, don't digest it. Don't recruit all the proper things to digest it. Focus on the thing that you're watching or reading even. Reading takes you out of the moment of community at the table, talking to your family, talking to your friends, and eating. And your body's supposed to digest, and it's the same with like the example of going to the gym. If you're watching something, your body's not recruiting the proper tissues, the joints, it's not, all the stuff's not going to those things because you're on high alert. So it's pumping stuff to your brain, it's keeping your organs, with plenty of blood and oxygen, and it's just, I don't know. I think at some point soon, because everything's kind of going back to ice and sauna and breath work, and how can I optimize myself without doing any of the other extraneous things, wearing the Oura rings and and all that stuff, and just being aware, being present with yourself. And then you start to notice, like, oh, I was present with myself all morning. I got my morning, stuff done. Because I've been so guilty of this too. I breathe every morning. I do some sort of breath work every morning, whether it's Wim Hof, whether it's my own thing that I want to play around with, whether it's I want to try and hold my breath for 3 minutes this morning, or whatever it is. And then more often than not, I do a plunge in our pool, because it's an above ground pool, so it's freezing cold now, which is fantastic. I don't have to crawl into the tub and go buy 400 pounds of ice and wait for it to melt in 10 seconds. But I'm guilty of it too. It turns into a checklist, and I have to check myself. Like the next day, I'm like, oh, yesterday I did all those things, and I don't really feel great. I didn't feel great after doing them. Why did I do them? Like, I needed something totally different. I needed to not do the ice bath, or I needed to sit in the sauna, or maybe go have a coffee chat with my wife, or whatever it is, or take the kid to school and chill there for a minute. And it's just one of those things that I don't love breath work because I'm a facilitator of breath work now. I love it because it brings you back to yourself.
Yeah.
It brings you back to that awareness that we all used to have of, like, back in the day when you could be walking through the forest and, I smell a wolf. I smell this. Like, now I have to be on high alert. But now it's like ding or bing or this or that, and like, we're constantly in sympathetic, like, and it's just like hovering constantly. And you get people that are like, well, I sleep great. I sleep like the dead, but I'm still, well, yeah, because your cortisol levels all day long are going, they're boiling over and then kind of dropping, and then boiling over and kind of dropping. And
just
then
eating junk all day too.
Yeah, and you're realizing you're sitting at your desk like staring at your, and it's bad because you're expelling all of your electrolytes. You're just burning all that stuff off, and drink water all day. I'm super hydrated, and then you go to pee, and your pee's orange because you're super dehydrated, and it's like, well, yeah, you've been breathing with your mouth open all day long. Like shut your mouth when you need to. Talk when you. And I often feel bad because my wife usually takes client calls. She has a day where she takes client calls, and she's talking for 8 hours that day, like pretty much nonstop. And at the end of the day, you can tell she's just like, oh my God, I'm so tired, and I didn't even do anything today. Like I was talking on the phone all day to clients, and I was like, well, yeah, because you're getting rid of all the stuff that you put into your body yesterday to help your body and hydrate and eat and do all those things. And like, it's insane what we do in today's society in order, to make a living and do all those things. And yes, those things are necessary. They're necessary evils, but at the same time, there's a little bit of breath work that you can do at night before you go to bed. You could do that 5 in, 5 out for 10 minutes before you go to bed, and it's just gonna, bring that system down, kind of mitigate all the stuff that you've burnt off throughout the day. And then you get into the realm of playing around with doing the sport you're in, or whatever athletic avenue that you do. Maybe you're a cyclist, maybe you're a runner, maybe you're this, maybe you're that, maybe you do Jiu Jitsu, and trying to make it through around. Yeah. as everyone should. You know, trying to make it through a sparring round with keeping your mouth shut the entire time.
Mm-hmm. I do try to do that.
And see what you notice. See
mostly
if,
because I don't want to swallow sweat.
Yeah.
But
people are above you, just dripping,
just pouring on you,
in and around your face.
I got some friends that are like, "You are the worst jiu-jitsu salesman ever. Like, all you talk about is like all this, like oh, I got choked today, or this dude was sweating all over me. You know, like it's like this. I don't want that. You know, it's like, no, but you do. You don't know but you do.
But you do. The minute you do it, you'll be like, oh my god, why haven't I been doing this the whole time?
Yeah. Well, I think so. I know that I told you this story, but so I have a friend who is, she's a movement specialist, and she works with people who are older, and her whole thing is based around this concept of original strength, which was developed by what's that guy's name? Tim Anderson. It's a guy named Tim Anderson. Great. Like, you can just go on YouTube and search original strength. You'll see all the stuff. But basically what the curriculum is based on is early movement patterns of infants and how they use that to develop a nervous system. So like rolling, rocking, neck nods, stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. It's just like some rolling, like you roll intentionally and like you kind of rock, maybe some crawling. And it's all based on those patterns. And the idea is, and this has been proven now, like you can, like he wrote a book about it. I think it's called Original Strength, but it's about training your nervous system so that you can kind of go out of, like, you can tell when you're in that space. It's almost like breath work in that way, where like, and it's also something that is moving, like it's moving your body in a way that's like, oh, it's retraining that nervous system part. And one of the things she said to me, I was doing a session with her not too long ago. A friend of mine had her come out and did a private session, and I was telling her about this injury that I had with my knee. I was hiking and fell and almost shredded my knee. It was bad. I couldn't walk. It was swollen. I don't know. I don't think anything tore, but it definitely popped, and it still bothers me, And she was like, "Well, what's probably happening is that your knee is trying to keep itself safe because that injury is still, that triggered that." There's something, fight or flight nervous system right there. Your body literally is trying to keep that knee safe, and when you like compensate for it, so I'll make out maybe I'm walking a little, like with a little bit of a walk differently now, like a little bit, like subtly, and then that reinforces that, like, oh, and I'm telling my brain now there's something wrong with my knee. And so you need to worry about that. And so my brain's like, okay, that's cool. We can worry about it. And now here we are, 8 months later, and it's still bothering me. Whereas I could have done some work to either do some breath work to breathe into that, or to do some more movement patterns that are going to heal it, to reinforce the opposite of that, right? So to like, hey, thank you for keeping me safe. I appreciate that. But there's so many other patterns that we're unaware of. Like, that's what freaked me out when I thought about this more deeply. And even as you were talking about it, I was like, there's so many little things that I do on a daily basis that reinforce my body, reinforce my body and mind to be in that constant fight or flight, right? It freaks me out to think about it. Like when you're talking about like being on your phone, it's like, well, dude, yeah. Like, I mean, that's just me reminding, or like watching something while I'm eating lunch or whatever. Like, and so we worked with a gut health person to help get rid of some mold exposure stuff. It's a long story, but she one of the things she taught us was to do some intentional alternate nostril breathing before we started eating to induce like a saliva response. Because if you like, while you're looking at your food, you should have a saliva production so that you trigger your body that it's time to eat. No way, and in no way have I ever heard that before in my life, and no way have I ever thought about it. And as far as I know, as I've gotten older, I feel like it's gotten way worse, right? Because we're always watching something or working.
Always.
Like, it's never am I thinking about, I'm about to eat and my body needs to think about digesting this. So that was, it just blew my mind. It freaks me out to think about all the ways that I'm reinforcing that. So
it's nuts that, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's an old book, but it still stands up today. And I read it probably 6 months ago now, and it's written by a psychologist who, like, when psychology and therapy and all those things were coming about, he started his practice and was talking to soldiers coming back from Vietnam. And they used to be called shell-shocked, not PTSD. And just the stuff that he realized during his time as a psychiatrist, psychologist, researcher, all those things, is like, our body's literally... And I always talk about this. Our body's like literally, especially our subconscious, literally takes all the little itty bitty things, like your child, talks back to you or says something to you, or you snap at your spouse, or your spouse snaps at you, or, you're going to the grocery and someone cuts you off and takes your spot, or whatever it is. We think that, that's okay. It's fine, or, as I've gone through being in Jiu Jitsu, now that I'm older, I'm not cocky about it because I know what I can and can't do. But used to, in college, I played rugby in college, and then I played semi-professional rugby, and someone would cut me off or say something to me or flip me off or something, and I'd be like, oh, I could floor that person. That's how confident I am in my own skill set. And it's like, that's not what it's about, Even though you could floor that person, they flipped you off, and your subconscious just went, thanks, I'm going to use that later on when I think I need to keep you safe. And it's just your body trying to keep you safe. That's all it is. Even though, bringing up when mom and dad got divorced, or something happened to your first dog, or something like that, doesn't really keep you safe. It scares the shit out of you. It makes you feel unworthy. It's insane to me that more people aren't aware of this. And again, it comes back to that awareness. It comes back to being present while you're eating, being present while you're watching a movie, being present while, you're drinking a glass of wine. Because we all get into those, those numbing phases, and you don't just have to numb with alcohol and drugs. You can numb with anything. You can numb with binge watching TV shows. You can numb with, overeating. You can, there's a million different ways. One of the ways that I like to numb is, I can't take care of that right now, even though I know I need to, because I've got too many chores to do around the house. I got to do all the laundry. I got to take. No, you don't. Just take care of the fucking thing. Just get it done, and quit putting it off, and just pay attention to those things. And reading a subconscious book right now, and it's just like, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's from a few years back, and it's insane what we can tell ourselves and how we can change things just by telling our subconscious, because apparently our subconscious knows everything. Our subconscious has been around many times. It's not just in our lifetime, not just, from the beginning of time. our subconscious has been around, so it knows how to do everything. It knows. And so if you can access that, if you can master your subconscious, you can get rid of all the little traumas, all the little, the little things, or this is why every time I get in an argument with so-and-so, I go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, because this happened and my subconscious went, thank you, appreciate it. And then that comes up in the transformational breath work as well. We generally, as human beings, we carry around 14 generations of stories in our cells. And it's, you might have an anger problem, and that's not you. That's not your character, and that's not your character, but it might have been your great grandfather's character. And so we end up holding on to all that stuff, but it's just as easy to let go of it. And you just tell yourself, and this gets into the woo-woo side of things, which I really love, because there's some stuff that I've read and I'm like, what? You can do that? I can sit down with myself and call my energy back to me, or cut the cord of the energy that someone's trying to put on me, that's making me feel like absolute crap. Like, yeah, I think that stuff's pretty cool. And I think it is cool. I think if we were aware enough, if we were present enough, like we were, without all of the distractions and all the, I gotta film the other morning I went to do an ice bath, and it was freezing. The pool had to have been 40 degrees, and I was like, yes. I like it when it's like super cold, because it's like it's like a hug. It's, to me, it's weird, because it's like it's easier when it's really cold. And I know the science behind being in super cold, under 55, under 50 is, I get it. But it helps my mind, and it's like having 5 cups of espresso without having to drink all that espresso. And I got in, sat down, controlled my breath, and it was just a beautiful morning, clear blue sky, birds chirping, no wind, no nothing, the sun was up, all that stuff. And my first thought was, I gotta go get my phone and redo my entry into the pool so I can put it on my Instagram. And then I was like, you idiot. No, you don't. Just be here. Just be here in the damn moment. Yeah. And if someone asks you later today, hey, did you cold plunge today? Yeah, I did. And it was beautiful. And I was there. I was present with it. Yes. And I sat in it for 4 minutes, even though it's freezing balls outside. And it was amazing. And then I got out and started a fire back in our fire pit. And, the rest of the day was amazing, because I was present right at the beginning of the day. And I'm not saying like, you have to. How dare you look at your phone? How dare you do that? No. You're going to look at your phone. You're going to look at your computer. We're on a computer right now. Yeah. I've got blue light blocking software on it. It's fine. It's great. Yeah. It's been amazing. There's a software called Iris, and it's $40, and you get it for life. And my eyes feel fantastic. And then cool. if I ever have to open it up at night, I put on the blue blocking glasses as well. I get the double whammy, and I can go to sleep and do all that stuff. Like, there's ways to mitigate all this stuff, because a lot of times all of this stuff is necessary. You have to be on a computer. You have to have a phone to call people. Now you can get a flip phone, which I've always wanted.
Yeah, I kind of want one too, but I also don't. So, because I like, it's like the same thing. It's as you're talking about. It's like I kind of like that my phone works really well. I kind of like that I can pretty much do whatever I want on it. Like it's, as much as I don't want to be tied to it, I also kind of like that the technology is so good. But I feel like, and like one of the one of my, we were talking about the woo-woo stuff earlier when you got on. You said you just got a new puppy, which is awesome. And we were talking about kind of giving them good food and how I never thought about that when I was growing up for sure. But maybe 10 years ago, our cat, who was like 14, maybe not 10 years ago, maybe it was like 7. He got sick, stopped eating, hadn't eaten for like a week. We were like, oh my God, like maybe this is the end,
Sure.
And we kept getting these recommendations for different vets. And I hadn't really, I'd done a little bit of stuff. Like I had done some cold exposure, but I was still kind of not, I wasn't as aware of everything in those woo-woo kind of space as I am now.
Sure.
But one of we went to, we call it the voodoo vet now.
Nice.
But he's a holistic vet, right? And I was like, I have no idea what we're going in here with, but like this is, we got to just see what's going on.
Try. Yeah.
And he goes in there and, we hold the cat, he holds the cat, or no. He hands the cat to his nurse assistant, and then she holds her arm out, right? And they start doing this biofeedback thing where he asks the cat a question, and then if the arm moves, the cat said yes. And so he's doing the thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm watching it all happen, and he's writing down the ingredients that he's allergic to. And he's writing down the ingredients that he's not allergic to. And then he finishes asking my cat questions. And then he looks at me and says, all right, do you have any questions? And I was like, yeah, I have several. But I guess like this is just what we do. And dude, we bought the food and we came home and the cat ate the food. And he's freaking 14 years old and is like thriving, So that was like kind of the first foray into something that deep, and in my mind in that moment, I think something switched of like, well, there's something that worked there. So whether or not I can explain it, it doesn't necessarily matter. And I've had energy work like since then. Like I've gone to energy healing sessions. I've done like all kinds of crazy stuff. And even like first in starting those kind of journeys, I was like, well, I don't know what this is. I don't know. I don't know what kind of, magic's going to go on inside of me, but also, dude, I don't know why my knee is deciding to keep me safe. I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't have to, because I can look at it and say, that kind of makes sense. So maybe I should do something about that. And I feel like anybody listening to this who is, I don't know, hesitant, skeptical. Screw that stuff, man. Like, why in the world would you walk through the world in your life, like with this like skeptical, cynical mind?
Sure.
Like, just try some stuff, right? Like,
why be
miserable? There's so many people who are just miserable.
Right. Right. And I think it's cool to be skeptical. But you said you hit the nail on the head with the word cynical about it. And the people that are like, well, that's dumb. And that person's not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. And I had 9 breakthroughs yesterday with people I didn't even know. So, it doesn't matter. I think that whole construct of this person's a medical doctor, this person's certified, this person's not, this person, like back in the day, people used to go to the medicine man or the medicine woman, and it was just some old person that had tried all the stuff and was really good at, a few of the modalities and was really intuitive with it, listened to people, and that was it. And they were amazed. They're a magician. They're No, they're not. They're just intuitive, and they're paying attention to what you're talking about, to what you're coming in there, and you have this, you have psoriasis, you have this, you have that. Well, it's because you every day at 4 p.m., you're nervous system gets jacked up because you have to go and do this thing for work, or you have to do that. Like, it's all, we're all able to, and I love trying out different modalities. I love you know, have you ever done vibroacoustic healing?
No, but I've done different like sound meditations and healings.
Yeah, so vibroacoustic, they put headphones on you, noise canceling headphones, cover your eyes, and you're on a table that vibrates with the beat of the sounds, and it's all binaural, it's all, you know, tuned to a certain frequency and hertz and everything to get your brain going. One of the most amazing things that I've ever done. Yeah. I went to I don't even know where, and then slowly came back, and afterwards I was like, wow, like
That's
no one touched me, no one made me breathe a certain way, none of that. But it was like I tried it, and then I tried some other thing because we went to the spa a few years ago for my wife's 40th, and in upstate New York, called Shosugi Bon House, and I highly recommend if anybody's ever over that way. It's fantastic. But they have cold plunge. Yeah. That's outside next to a medium hot tub and a super hot tub, and their cold plunge is like 20 degrees, recirculating water.
Yep.
And it was amazing. But then I went and did some other type of energy healing that I had done before, and the one I had done before was amazing, but this one wasn't. And I was like, chalk it up to my mind wasn't ready for it. Chalk it up to, I wanted to get back in the cold plunge or go sit in the hot tub. And there's always those things, and like, you can walk around and be cynical about it, and like my sister's into crystals and that's dumb, and it's like, no, not really. It really isn't, because there's all kinds of, I wear this that has titanium beads that block EMF, and ever since I've gotten it, I feel great. Every time I fly with it, I feel fantastic. Like, dude. There's all these little tricks that people have tried, and they work. And sometimes they don't work. But that doesn't mean that it's dumb. Like,
Yeah.
It's just like I was saying at the beginning with the, I know how to breathe. What are you going to do? Teach me how to drink water? No.
Yeah. Well, it's like people in Jiu Jitsu, they like when you hear when people first, I know a lot of people who say things like this of like, well, I'll just stand up. Like, okay, bro. All right. And or like, well, I've got a gun. It's like, what are we even talking about? Why would you even say that?
We're at training right now. You're not bringing a gun into here. Do I suggest that you double leg the guy that mouthed off to you on Broadway? No, don't double leg that guy. Swing for the fences or run away.
Yeah, or
no
just
run.
Exactly.
No one's gonna think any less of you for running away, because turns out
who cares if they do.
I ran away from a bouncer one time in Chicago, and it turns out that all the bouncers at this bar had guns that they weren't supposed to have. But I was like, thank God I ran away so I didn't get shot. Like, I'd rather, I'd rather have someone give me shit about running away than get shot or get picked up and spiked on my head because I'm a brown belt in Jiu Jitsu. Yeah, cool story. I've got a bottle
don't know what people
that
know.
I've broken. Yeah. And it's just one of those things, and I think that over time through my jiu-jitsu journey, I've learned to like let go of the, I'm a pretty good at jiu-jitsu. I know things. I'm a big, strong guy. Like, I should be able to handle myself if someone pulls a knife out. And I've asked military friends that are way better at jiu-jitsu and hand-to-hand combat and all that stuff than I am. I've even asked Sean about knives. And he's like, someone pulls a knife out on you, go away. Yeah. He's like, run away as fast as you can. Because there's no amount of knife fighting training that can prepare you for the way someone moves with a knife, whether they know what they're doing or not.
Right, and they might know what they're doing.
And they might know what they're doing, which makes it even worse. it's just one of those things that you can choose to, you know, you can choose to believe in the woo-woo, or you can not, and that's on you. I'm fine with that. I personally don't like Western medicine. Now, surgery, emergency surgery, things like that, sure, those are necessary. Mm-hmm. And I'm fully on board with that. You know, someone getting burnt in a house fire and losing 70% of their skin and having to have skin grafts, and you know, for example, stuff like that. Yes, that is amazing. That is fantastic. But you know, there are different modalities that can help with pain management, addiction. There's breath work for pretty much everything, except for, you know, I don't even know. there might be breath work for everything, which would be awesome. But it's like tuning in and being aware of, kind of like the why. Like, I love, because my daughter questions everything. You know, she said, why? Why would I breathe? You want to come breathe with me? I can put you through a regenerative journey because we watched a scary movie and you didn't sleep last night, and this will make you feel like you're rested. And sometimes she's like, yes, let's do it. And sometimes she's like, why? Why would I do that right now? When I can go play, or when I can go do this, or when I can go be out in the sun, or, you know. I'm like, fair point. You got me.
Yeah. And maybe that helps move that stuff through too.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm not trying to force you to, just because Dad likes doing breath work doesn't mean you have to. It kills me though, because she won't do Jiu Jitsu, and she's a natural at it.
I was trying to get my son into it too.
She's like, I just don't want to. And I'm like, but you're so good at it. So I started her when she was 4. She did it for about a year, and then she had one bad experience. It traumatized her. Yep. It traumatized her, so she thinks that every time she goes to jiu-jitsu, that's what's going to happen to her. And I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Especially not at the new gym.
Listen, so I want to get it. Actually, I have a question that's very intentional that I think is going to kind of get us. I want to hear more about your journey through getting into all of this stuff. But I want to say this while we're on that topic. I don't think I knew. I know that I did not know what I was getting into when I joined Renzo Gracie Nashville. I had no idea. So I know that you were wearing that sweatshirt when we first met, but it didn't stick in my mind. I wasn't sure if that was the place or not, right? And then I was looking for a gym in January of this year, 2023, and I have a buddy who's into martial arts, and he had mentioned somebody who had mentioned that he knew some of the good gyms or whatever. So I asked him, and Renzo was one of the ones that came up. I said, yeah, Sean Williams owns it. He's like, one of the best instructors in the world. I'm like, I have no idea what any of this means. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go in there and I'll check it out. And obviously it is what it is. Like, I was immediately like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Like, I'm blown away, and I'm not realizing that I'm being spoiled by like literally one of the best schools in the country. Like, I'm there, like, and then we go on vacation, and I'm like, well, I'm all excited because I'm a jiu-jitsu player now, right? I'm in the community. So we go 100%. To this, I go to this place in Florida on the beach, which was fun. It was a cool gym. But I went in there, dude, totally different culture. I just got my ass handed to me. Like, there was, people that, and also like, I'm a big dude. So there was this, and when you go into a new place, I think there's also this, like, they want to prove themselves kind of almost, like, so all the other white belts like are just smashing me, and I'm brand new at this point. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. But it was awful, an awful experience. And I didn't go the rest of the week. I was planning on going several days, but I was so like freaked out about getting injured, and it was such a different experience from Renzo. So like I did not know what I was getting into with that school, man. It's so I'm so grateful.
Yeah, It's just different. And, you know, some people thrive in the other schools and the other styles and the other teaching styles and the other, you know, you got to show up and you got to be the alpha and you have to show your belt rank and you have to, like, all that stuff. And that's great. But I'm 42 years old. I don't have anything to prove. I've got a brown belt from Sean Williams, and I got it within 7 years of training because I busted my ass the first 4 years. Was just super consistent. And, you know, it's a fabric belt. Like, you'll get to the point where you're like, oh yeah, it is just a fabric belt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I told you before, like, it definitely feels like it matters when I'm rolling with people who have different colored belts.
And I mean, that's the thing, like, and we've talked about this too, like, you know, we have blue belts in the gym that can handle pretty much anybody, and then we have blue belts in the gym that can't. They're blue belts. They make stupid mistakes, and they get too excited, or they get too aggressive, or they get too but I mean I was told a long time ago, I got super aggressive at my old gym with one of my training partners that we always train together, and we kind of were trying to one up each other, and we were going to end up hurting each other. And, you know, one of my other friends was like, dude, you're on the same team. Like, you don't want to destroy your training partner. And I was like, you know what, you're right. Like, the last tournament I competed in, you know, I didn't go half as hard as I went against him today. Like, so, you know, there's all those little nuanced things where it's like, you kind of have to remember where you're at. And especially at Henzo's, like, you get the benefit of the doubt for so long, and then it's like, if you're gonna act like, excuse my French, an asshole or a dickhead, and keep showing up and acting like a dickhead, you're gonna get treated like a dickhead. And I've seen Sean put black belts in their place because they're acting like dickheads, and I was like, oh my God, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I'm not going to act like a dickhead ever. You know, and it's a community, and it's like the same thing if you live in a neighborhood where you know all your neighbors and you guys hang out all the time, and like, you're not going to go up and punch Derek from down the street just because, you know, we live in the same community and our kids know each other. That's why I did that. No. Like, if you're going to go into training, to the comp team training at 7 a.m, you know, and start ripping heel hooks on people that don't know heel hooks, then you're going to get sat out. Because, like, no. Why are you trying to hurt everybody? Or why not have a conversation with the person before you spar and just be like, hey, you know, I am a purple belt, but I've really focused on this, or I'm coming back from this, or hey, would you mind if we worked on this, or would you start on my back, or can we do this? And because when you do this all the time, and like, oh, I got to show, and coach is here this morning, so I got to show off and show him what I learned on YouTube the other day, and like, and then, you know, he sees right through it, which is the other great thing about our gym. Is, you know, where he'll be in the middle of a training session. He'll be like, where'd you learn that? Oh, well, I was watching these YouTube videos. Stop. Like, just stop. If you have a question about that move, just ask me. Because he's like an encyclopedia. And one of the biggest things that I love about our gym, not just because I go to it, I haven't been into training in so long though, just with new schedules and stuff, is just the fact that we don't have any of those upper belts that they have at other gyms, where it's like, you can't bump into me. Don't bump into me. I'm a brown belt. Don't bump into me.
Yeah.
or I'm a black belt. You got to bow to me. You got to do this. No. We're all human beings. We're all adults. Don't be a dickhead, and don't spaz out. And you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
And you're good.
Yeah, man.
Because we have plenty of people that, you know, they won't react. They won't give you the time of day to react back at you if you're yelling and screaming, or you, come on, come at me, do this. You know, if you're having a bad day, if you're leaving the fucking parking lot and just come in and train and have fun, play. Yeah. Play with your teammates. You know, try something out.
Yeah, that's how it should. That's how
Stop
it should be,
in the middle of it and be like, hey, am I breathing in and out through my mouth? Am I like, what happened on that last move? Why couldn't I finish it? Or, you know, why didn't you finish it on me? I thought I was toast. Like, what happened? And it'd be, oh, I lost my grip. Or you turned and you're finally defending it right now. Or we worked on that. Or I slipped. Or, you know, or like, let's start over. Let's start in that position. Show me what you did. And then, like, again, we're all adults.
Yeah. Well, I've even had to have conversations with people like a couple different times, to say like, dude, that kind of pissed me off when you did that. You know? And I think people kind of get like taken back when you just like are that open with them sometimes. Yeah. But I was just like, hey man, that kind of pissed me off, because I am not going to just walk around and like be quiet and like ignore you and like, let's just keep on this thing. No. Like, if you did something to me that was like a little too intense, like you didn't need to rip that arm bar that hard. You know, it kind of pissed me off that you almost ripped my shoulder off. So I'm going to tell you that. You know what I mean? Mostly so it doesn't happen again. You know? Sure.
Sure. But that's one of those things that's like, you know, you can question everything, or you can question everything and be cynical about it. Yeah. And that I mean, you as a human being, you as a person, and how much I know you and how long I've known you, like, that's the best thing you can do. When the gym first started out, I started kind of a week after like the soft opening, and we had people from other gyms coming in, you know, I'm a black belt from blah blah blah, and they would just get stomped because it's like, dude, what are you doing? You know, you don't have to prove to me that you're a black belt. You have your black belt. Like, why would you rip something on me when I just told you, you know, I have a sore shoulder because of blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, we've been doing 2-a-days for the last 3 weeks. Like, why would you do that? Now I can't train for the next 6 weeks because you just tore my MCL, or you just bruised my rib so bad that, you know, and there's a time and place, you know, when you're playing around and like when I go to training every once in a while with certain people that I know can handle it and they won't get butt hurt by it, or, you know, they know what I'm doing. You know, I'll put a chin into a shoulder blade or something just to see if I can get them to let go or whatever. Just playing around. And like, if I hurt somebody, I stop immediately and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Are you okay? I didn't mean to do that. I slipped while I was going into my entry for this. Like, you know, accidents happen, and that's the thing. But I love that you stop and you say, hey, you know, what's going on? What's going on? You didn't have to like crank on my throat. Now I can't talk for the next 4 days. Like,
yeah, there's a difference, man. There's some things where it's like, you know, I've had people do things like you were talking about, like that, or like a really hard, you know, cross face, like real hard, you know. And at the beginning, I was like, what is happening? Because it feels like it feels like there's something you should almost tap to. But then I did tap one time, and this guy, I can't remember his name. He was basically like, that wasn't a tap. And I was like, what? I mean, it kind of, I think I should be the one to decide that.
Right. I'm the one who tapped.
But like, you know, learning now, it's like, those are little things that I can deal with. It's actually been good to to learn how to deal with, like, oh, this is inconvenient, but it's not actually hurting me. So
Sure.
I'm going to deal with it so that I can move on to the next step of this. Because, I mean, if you do end up in an altercation of some sort,
Sure.
it's not going to be a polite situation, right? Where you get to be
Right.
like, please remove that from my ribs. So
Actually, grab me with that hand. Can we start this over? Can you grab me with that hand? No, not that hand. That hand. Yeah, now I know what to do. Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I when I first started, there were so many situations like that, and I had a bunch of old school teammates that were black belts and higher belts, and they were like, it was done to me this way, and so now I'm doing it to you, and I'm like, that's fine, but when I catch up and I know what I'm doing, just be aware that I'm going to bring it back around just to see if I know how to use it now. So there's always those things too, and you can't hold grudges, and you can't, there's some very old school moves that people have that are like, oh wow.
Yeah.
It's like, that works. That's like super nefarious and like, oh, like that's awful. Where did you learn that?
Have you rolled with Adriano a bunch?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I try
So
to
Adriano,
grab his legs.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, he's
Yeah,
getting better at leg.
problem.
He's getting better at leg locks now. So I'm like, damn it, you're catching up because you didn't know any of that stuff, and then I had to take a bunch of time off, and now you know it, so you can get out of it.
yeah. It's terrible, but he's definitely showed me some stuff where he was like, he'll be like, now this isn't very nice.
Yeah,
but you can do it.
Yeah.
So
and I mean,
a
lot of that stuff helps out in self-defense situations.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of times too, like, even if you know a little bit of something, if you step up to the situation, whether it's a bar fight, whether it's whatever, because during my rugby days, we used to get in fights with all kinds of people. And I thought, oh, I can handle so-and-so. But I didn't realize his friend's over there, and he just field goal kicked me in the face while I was trying to handle him. Like you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
In my old gym, had a teammate that was a very good grappler, like really good. And I think they were a purple belt. They were big dude, very agile, mobile, all the stuff. He was a bouncer on Broadway, and he got starched one night because some guy started mouthing off, and he went to go kick him out, and he's like, you want to settle down because I know Jiu Jitsu. And the guy was like, great. Turns out he was like a Muay Thai expert. And so, I mean, he dropped him. And he came in the next day to training, and he was like, I got to start, learning how to use my hands. I love Jiu Jitsu, but you literally never know. Or someone could pick up a piece of wood or a chair or a stool, or there's a crowbar for whatever reason because someone changed a tire in a parking. Like you like literally, you never know. Or so and so. There's 2 of them here, but there's 5 of them back there that you had no idea about, and you're getting just beaten up by a gang of people, or you're, and so trying to having the knowledge to know that stuff might happen, and just be like, hey, like, I'm sorry I bumped into you, or whatever the argument's about, and being able to realize, like, I could probably handle this guy, but do I need to really? Do I want to risk being stabbed with a broken bottle, or like a knife, or someone's got a chain in their pocket? Like, I've seen all kinds of like just crazy stuff, and it's like, no, I'm going to defuse the situation. Hey, why don't I buy you a couple drinks, or why don't I, pay for your tab, or like, I don't want to get in a fight with you because
No,
I also
dude.
don't want to.
No.
I also don't want to kill you.
Yeah, oh, dude, that's a problem. It's like that's the other thing is like people think that you're just gonna like fight and just knock people out. I'm like, dude, like you knock somebody out cold and they fall over and hit their face on the curb and then they're dead. Then what?
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
go to jail. You know what I
And
mean?
then
Like
you're
it's not-
like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it was self-defense. They're like,
yeah,
you starched the guy, and he
Yeah.
broke his face on the thing, and now he's dead, and he's got a family, and blah blah blah. And it's like,
it's crazy, man. So I mean, I don't want any of that. And
Yeah.
I dude, honestly, like I've been to Broadway several times with people where people come up to me and start like mouthing stuff. I think it's because I'm big. I'm a big dude. So I don't know what it is about. I think it's some sort of like primal thing that
sure.
that comes out when dudes are just overly intoxicated, right? There's always somebody who just wants to like look for something.
yeah,
And like I don't like that because I'm like I would rather just like, you know what, man, we're not going to do this because I don't know what you know. We're not getting into this. So yeah.
And you also don't know, because when you teach someone that's your size jiu-jitsu and you get proficient in it, it's like I've heard that put this way, and I don't remember who said this to me, but it's like having a venomous snake that has wings. So
like
it can
that.
fly in and out and just
Yeah.
like put you down with bites and just
Well,
fly away.
I'm hoping that I get my wings soon, man, because right now I just feel like I'm getting crushed in the dirt. But no, it's been fun. So I wanna talk about that, like, because you know we talked about jiu-jitsu a little bit. How did jiu-jitsu come first? Like sports and jiu-jitsu, did that come first before the breathwork stuff? Like, how did that transition happen? Because I also know that you do some performance stuff with, you know, practitioners and other people as well. So I'm just curious how that path went.
Yeah, so jiu-jitsu came second, but there's kind of a caveat to that. I played semi-professional rugby in Chicago for 8-9 years, and one of my teammates went on to start a company called XBT, and that's where I am performance breathwork certified. And
Wait.
that
Hang on. So
ahead.
XPT, isn't that Laird Hamilton's also involved with that, right? XPT?
yeah,
Okay.
Laird and Gabby. And
So wait. Was Laird Hamilton one of your teammates? I'm confused. Who? Like,
no.
Okay.
different teammate. So if you
Okay.
go on to XBT, you'll see Mark Roberts.
Okay.
And he was one of my teammates. Mark played professionally in Ireland for the Ulster U19s. He's a freak. He's just a huge jacked Irish guy, and always into performance, always into fitness. And he joined the team, and then they came up with XBT. And in the beginning days of XBT, Brian McKenzie from Shift Adapt, which is breathwork training, all those things. Who else? Patrick McCune, who is Oxygen Advantage. Wim Hof. I think Jesse Coomer has done a little bit here and there with them. Like Brian McKenzie and Jesse Coomer are kind of friends. And Jesse just came out with a new book that I want to get, The Language of Breath. That looks really awesome. But they're all advisors. And then one of my other teammates, who is an ex like Special Forces Army Ranger, looks like a Chippendales model, Golden Gloves boxer, 5 PhDs. He's just awesome human being. Not just because of that, but he's just like an all-around good guy. He's on the advisory team with XBT, specifically for breathwork and TBIs, and military servicemen and women returning back home with TBIs. Not only from, like blunt force trauma, but from psychologically. They're from shell shock, which they don't call it anymore, PTSD, things like that. And he's done just so many things in the realm of science, proving that, when we can control our breath and when our breath is no longer dysfunctional, just leaps and bounds with traumatic brain injuries and PTSD and just all around, your training, your active duty military, your everything. It's really unbelievable. He helped co-found a lab at University of South Carolina, I believe, that specifically deals with just the science behind all of it. How your respiratory system and how the last time I talked to him, he's like, isn't it funny how many people don't know how to breathe? And I'm like, yeah, it actually is. It's crazy because, you've got people that are professional athletes, people that are Olympians, people that are, and they just do what they've been shown over time. And it's, you see everybody's, and it's like, just think, like, for me, it gets me like giddy because I'm like, oh my God, if I could just get my hands on that one person and run them through some performance training and a little somatic release to get them to kind of let go and just flow with everything, like how much they'd go from being here to like stratosphere level. And so I found out about XPT through the two of them, and then I realized when we moved to Nashville, I coached rugby for a little bit, and I had no idea about breath work or any of those things. Was kind of in the health and wellness field, being an athlete and making sure mobility was right and lifting and our diets were right and all that stuff. And then I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, realized that XPT had breath work, and I reached out to my friend Mark, and he was like, yeah, get the certification. It's online. Like, you don't have to be out here to get it. Super interesting. It's all science-based, and there's a psychologist on the team now that she's like an active therapist, and so they've started to work with all of that as well. And I went down the Wim Hof rabbit hole. I was like, this guy's nuts and awesome. And started learning about Tumo and the forced hyperventilation and things like that. And I would do it every morning, and then decided in 2019 to go through the certification. I started to get more and more interested and had read the Oxygen Advantage and used to use that the elevation mask, which is now called the training mask, because it does not simulate higher elevation. However, if anybody has that's listening that has problems with their breathing mechanics, buy one of those and wear it.
Interesting.
A couple times.
It's just what's it called? It's just a elevation.
It's just the training. It's the Oxygen Advantage training mask, and you look like Bane. Like, you look pretty cool, and you can go talk to people and be like, "Why would you shoot a man?" But
your punishment must be more severe.
You can. The way I've heard it put is it just like organizes your organs so that you're breathing properly. It doesn't simulate higher elevation. You can do breath holds to simulate higher elevation training. But really good tool to have, and play around with. I used to wear it every time I worked out just to see how far I could push myself. Or I'd go running with a weight vest and wear that as well. Just to see if I could, not get as much oxygen have 40-pound weight vest on and see if I couldn't, continue to keep a pace and everything like that. So got interested in that, got certified, and then was working regular kind of design job, and just kept going down the rabbit hole of breath work. And I was like, oh, Wim Hof does more. And a lot of people don't know this, but Wim Hof does way more than just the fully in, letting go. He does all the low and slow, in through the nose, all the stuff, because he initially got into it for mental health, and there are many ways to breathe that help with mental health. And so I was like, oh, there's some of this slower stuff, and there's deep diaphragmatic, and then I found out about holotropic, and I was actually gonna go down that journey, and that's a 2-year program of like crazy study, and you have to lead people on retreats as part of your hours, and
wow.
and all this stuff. And I think holotropic's cool, but you have to do it for like 2 to 3 hours for it to like really hit. And
jeez,
with euphoric breathing,
what happens? Like what happens with that?
It's nuts. Like,
is it like DMT release, or like what happens?
Yeah, a little bit, but you get the same DMT release with euphoric breathing with that 3-part breath.
Yeah.
2 to 3 hours, 45 minutes. So went down the rabbit hole, and then I found there's a company called Yogi Lab out of Bali. They all used to be in the States, and then they were like, well, why don't we just go live in Bali? And very, very in tune with mindfulness, yoga, circadian rhythm work, things like that. And their breathwork person, their like director of breathwork, Brian Kelly, is he started Breath Masters, and so I got certified in that, and it all backed by science, more transformational, regenerative, kind of trauma release, kind of, getting people more connected again to their bodies, making that mind-body connection. And so got certified in that, and I'd say 2 years before I went down the breathwork rabbit hole was when I started Jiu Jitsu. I had friends in Chicago I have a friend in Chicago, a pretty good friend now, that runs his own gym. He's a Hickson black belt. Super cool guy, super cool gym. Not about strength, anything. He's covered in tattoos. And if you ever saw him, you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy looks really cool. And just a true martial artist. Just kind of got me into the love of jiu-jitsu. And then I've got a friend here that runs a fitness gym over off of Trinity Lane, named Kyle Hopkins, and he's the one who like kind of lit the fire, because he used to take jiu-jitsu a long time ago, and he's like, I love it, but I can't take classes anymore because of my back and blah blah, all this stuff. So he taught me the basics, and he bought a bunch of rollout mats, and we rolled a couple times, and then we got to the point where we would stalemate each other. So I was like, well, I'm going to go sign up where everybody says to sign up, which was Nashville MMA. It was in this Dungeness gym that's been around apparently forever. It used to be the boxing center over on Main Street in East Nashville, and had a pretty good experience, pretty good teammates, good teachers, taught me the basics, and I continued with learning about breath work, and it wasn't so much like this is what I'm gonna do, and that didn't happen until a couple years ago. I was like, you know what, I really like doing this. I realized I have more. It's less of a talent and more of a gift. The way that I hold space and take people through these journeys, it's very intuitive for me. It's the first thing I've ever done that I don't get nervous beforehand. I don't have any like preconceived ideas. I just let it unfold, and it feels really good to do. If I'm being, totally honest, there's no tension. There's no like forcing it. There's nothing. If I feel like that, and that's what happened with the with design and some of the other things that I know how to do. It just started to get to like, why am I doing this? It doesn't feel good.
Right.
I'm not really helping people. Breathwork helps people. Even if I can give someone like, even if they don't come to see me for a journey or anything like that, if I have a conversation with someone for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and they get something out of it, that's fantastic to me.
Heck yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm really not doing it for the money. Breathing is free. Breathwork's free. So and I'm a firm believer that when it's time for me to make money off of it, and make a good living off of it, it'll happen. And I don't want to force it and make it yucky or anything like that. And but yeah, I really started as my belt rank started to go up. I started to get more and more and more into the breath work, and then I was like, oh, I can control this. Or when someone's on top of me and I can only breathe out of my side, I'm going to try that. And now when I roll, it's super calm. And it just really messes with people's heads, when you get into a scramble and you settle and they're and I'm just either smiling I'm either smiling or I'm I'm like, okay, we've got 2 minutes left. Let's see where this goes. Let's see how quickly I can get you to burn your grips out.
Man, it's so like both Jiu Jitsu and breath work, or just being intentional about breathing. Like if you just take the label breath work away and it's just like, you're going to think about breathing for a minute. It's you can immediately do that. But what both of those things do, I think, that is interesting to me is it moves all this stuff through. Like we've kind of, I think this conversation has been really like beautifully unfolded, where we're talking about the things that the body takes on and remembers, and using these tools also can move those things out, right? So you're not like Jiu Jitsu can do that. It definitely has done that for me. Honestly, though, like if you do something physical like that, it's likely because the body keeps a score. It's going to bring some of that stuff to the surface. And if you don't know what it is, it's going to freak you out probably, and you're going to, maybe yell at your kid, or like you go to work and you're pissed off at everybody, or like you try to record a webinar and you suck, and you don't know what happened. And so using these tools, though, you can move through those things. Like you can center yourself, you can be more aware of what's happening. So like you were saying earlier, like maybe it's not the best time for me to sit down and record this video for social media. Maybe I need to go for a hike,
Sure.
Like imagine operating like that as someone who is trying to, show up and create a business. Like, and that's a lot of the people who listen to this show. And one of the reasons why I created it was because I think almost as a directive, like, we should wake up and then strive to get better that day. And it's really clear, like, yes or no. Did I get better today? And it can't always look like I made more money today. It can't always look like I grew in this way. Sometimes it's going to look like I listened to my body today and I took a nap, or I went for a hike. And that's what I love about this type of work, man. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you today, because you've been into all of that stuff. And yeah, it just works, man. I hope that more people can take away from that. So I want to let you talk for a second, but I also want to get into maybe some sort of practice that people can easily do right now, like that you could show them how to do.
Sure. That
can just allow them to come to a place of presence.
Sure. And again, it's a choice. Like, do you have to hop on your computer? Do you have to? Not right this second. You're a grown person. If you want to choose to go for a walk around the block or lay out in the sun or whatever it is, do it. Because at the end of your life, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, oh, remember that day that I got 10,000 followers? Or I got, this many views on my reel? Like, you're not going to think about that. You're going to think about, like, remember that day that I did, I got myself present in my own body, and then my son and I, or my daughter and I, or my wife and I had just the most amazing day afterwards because we were both present the whole day. You're going to remember that. So, easiest thing to do is to start paying attention, first and foremost. And one of my go-tos for everybody, if you're typing at the computer and you realize, like, oh, my mouth has been open for the last hour, or my mouth has been open for the last 20 minutes even, and I've been breathing in and out of my mouth, and I'm like staring here, and I'm, distracted, or I have a million tabs open. It's just to recognize that's what's been happening for the last 20 minutes. And all I want you to do is, even if you're at the office, some people might think you're weird, whatever. Or some people might come up to you after and be like, what did you just do? I just watched you do, and what was that? And you're gonna be like, oh, well, I feel great because I needed a little break, a little reset. All you're gonna do is exactly, and then you guys can have a weird friend community that does breath work every 30 minutes in the office. That would. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna back away from your workstation if you can. If not a big deal. Sit down in your chair if you have a standing desk. And all I want you to do is just close your eyes and just listen for a second. Close your mouth, close your eyes. Start just gently breathing in and out through your nose, okay? And if you can't, if you're stuffy or congested or whatever it is, too bad. No, I'm just kidding. Try breathing in through your nose and then exhaling through pursed lips. So just... And what you're trying to do is make the exhale the same amount of time as the inhale. And then eventually what you're going to do after a couple minutes of that, and you only have to do this for about 5 minutes, is trying to breathe in and breathe out the same amount of time. Doesn't have to be 5 seconds when you first start doing this. It could be 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out. Doesn't matter. And what I want you to focus on is you're going to take that inhale down into your belly. And I even if people are looking at you, I want you to try and stick your belly out as far as you can. as you're inhaling. I'm not moving my chest. I'm not bringing tension. I'm not doing anything like that. And then you're just exhaling, same amount of time. And your belly should come in. Your belly button should go toward your spine. Okay? And so what this is doing, it's just balanced breathing. Okay? And if you want to go resonant breathing right away, be my guest. In for 5, out for 5. Make them the same. Do it for 5 to 10 minutes. And then just slowly, what'll happen is you'll get the monkey chatter when you first go to do it, when you first close your eyes. But when you start counting the breath, that'll take your mind off of the monkey chatter and put it on the breath. And all you need to do is just notice, is there anything tense in my body? What are the sounds that are going on right now? What are the smells that are going on around me? Just notice those little things and count the breath. And then the more you do it, the more consistently you do it. You can do that like 4 or 5 times during the day if you want. You can do it before you go to sleep. And all it's going to do is just balance you and down-regulate you. And kind of it'll refresh some of you a little bit more so that when you open your eyes and you get back to work, you're ready to go. You don't need to go have a crappy cup of Keurig pod coffee that's in the little kitchen in the office. And yeah, you just becoming aware of how you're breathing. Are you breathing with your diaphragm? Have you been breathing for the last 10 years like this? Which puts strain on your neck and makes you go forward and, makes your palate cave in on itself. And there's all kinds of stuff that breathing properly with proper mechanics and being aware of it. You're not doing breath work while looking at the app for breath work no, just breathe. You don't need an app to breathe. Just breathe. And if you need a timer, if that would help you, put the timer on your phone. Or if you wear one of these, it's called a watch. It doesn't have a screen on it. It has 2 hands on it. If you wear one of those, just put your timer on that. If it's hard for you to count in that way, going in for 5, if you notice yourself pausing and then exhaling, try and take the pause out of it. Try to envision a circle, a loop in front of you. So right before you get filled all the way up, then you let go. And right before you empty all the way out, then you bring it in. Or you can think of a metronome. So you breathe in for 5, out for 5. In for 5, out for 5. And just practice it. It's called breath work for a reason, because you're supposed to practice it. And then your diaphragm will get stronger. Your lungs will get better. You're filtering all the air and humidifying it, so you're getting the best version of the air that you're breathing before it hits your lungs. And just notice. You might be calmer. You might go home at the end of the day. If you do it right before you go home or right before you get out of the car when you pull into your driveway, take that time for yourself. And if your spouse is like, what the hell? You pulled in 10 minutes ago. I needed a minute to myself. Traffic was hell. And I just wanted to calm down, and now I'm ready to help you make dinner, or I'm ready to go play with Junior, or whatever it is, or I'm going to go take my dog for a walk. Those people that have dogs, when you go on a walk, breathe in and out through your nose and notice how much better it is on your walk. And it's just bringing that awareness to yourself, to your system, because at the end of the day, when you're good, the people that are part of your family or your inner circle or your community get a better version of you.
Yeah.
And you can't take care of your family until you take care of yourself. So
yeah,
why not take 5 to 10 minutes out of your day to reset yourself so that you don't snap at your kids or the dog or whatever it is.
Yeah. For a long time I was obsessed with the creative process, and in some ways I still am. But when we had we were shooting weddings together, Jen and I, for a long time, I would be really intentional about the way I showed up on those days, because in my mind, what I was thinking was like, I'm getting paid to be creative here. They're paying not for photos, but for my mind to be there that day. And so I should be intentional then about what I put into my brain, because I want to be intentional about what comes out. And so I would be really intentional about that process. And in not just in a creative profession, but in any work, all the things are being sent at us, and it's a lot, everything's trying to reach out to us constantly, and it's very easy to not be intentional, right? But like just taking this one moment to breathe, like we should normalize that as a society, but also as people who are trying to create good work in the world, and be people who are bringing about new things and change and helping people. Like even if you're, a marketer, or like any online entrepreneur or a coach, or like whatever, it doesn't matter. Like it's part of your work to make sure that your mind is right. Right.
Yep.
And we don't think about that very much, but like just doing this thing, I think about how it's training your body, right? Like and this is full circle. This convo is like, I this thing that's automatic at all times throughout the day that we never think about is happening. Like, hey, thank you so much for doing that, but I'm going to take the wheel for a second and tell my brain that this is important. And like over time, your brain's going to be like, whoa, this must be important. Maybe we should think about this. And then this is who you are, right? As opposed to just something you're doing. And that's what I think is so beautiful about this work, man. And it's so important. And by the way, you mentioned that you had a gift for it, just right there at the beginning where you started in on like here's what you need to do. It's like I can sense that, man. So anyway, that's really cool.
Well, thank you.
You guys should work with
that.
Alex. Yeah. That's awesome, man.
It's like I was saying earlier, it's a choice, and you're allowed to make that choice. You're allowed to do whatever you want. Yes, there are rules, there are regulations, but at the end of the day, you're you. You take care of you. Like, why not make the choice to spend 5 minutes doing that rather than 5 minutes, I'll take the example because it's the example of the day, is spend 5 minutes scrolling, or even if you can't not scroll and breathe properly while you're doing it. Like, I mean, that's a step in the direction. That's a choice that you made to set that intention. Like, you know what? I don't want to stop scrolling because I'm finding some really cool things, but while I'm doing it, I'm going to focus on just that thing while I'm breathing properly. And then, as Chris was saying, your brain eventually goes, well, why don't we just breathe today? Instead of doing the scrolling, like, put the thing down and let's just go breathe. Or let's just go for a walk around the block. Because, when you're out in nature and the polyphenols that trees give off, when you inhale those, they chemically release serotonin and all the good stuff to make you feel better. So why not do that?
Yeah, I need that. I need more of that.
Yeah,
man, dude, Alex, this was awesome. Thank you for walking through that example too, man. So I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to work with you who hears this, because and guys, I'm just going to go ahead and like straight pitch why you should do this. Because there's nothing quite like it's almost like, how I think we've talked about this, like when you go to get your hair cut. I used to have hair, and it was awesome when I would go get a haircut because I could go into that place and I could let this person like just do its thing, and it feels good and it's fun, and like you're just there and you don't have to do anything else. That's the beauty also of a breathwork session. Now, obviously you're more involved, right? You're doing things, but if somebody's leading you, your job is to listen and do what they say and let them lead you through that. And there's something incredible that happens in that moment, as you've alluded to, all the experiences and stuff. And I think everybody should experience the power of what they already have inside them just by using this thing that we forget we're even doing. So how can people sign up to work with you? What's it look like?
Yeah, so I'm just at alexholguin.com. If you're into Instagram, it's Alex Breathwork is my handle. You can reach me on either of those. I'm going to pivot a little in the next couple months because I do have a swimming pool that is now basically an ice bath.
Yes.
I am going to start doing sessions once a week where we do 3 to 4 minutes of plunging here at the house, and then which will involve a little bit of breath work, and then we will warm up on our own with a little bit of movement afterwards, and then we will head inside and I will put you through a journey. I would love... I'm probably gonna charge somewhere in the $75 range for that.
Nice,
which is
crazy.
Which is a steal.
That's a great deal. Yeah.
And then I am also gonna start doing. I will still do one-on-ones if you want a one-on-one. However, I really want to start doing semi-privates with 4 people, and that can be you with your family. That could be a group of friends, that could be siblings, that could be whatever, or it could be 4 strangers. But I am also going to start doing those on Sundays. The plunging and breath work will probably be on Thursdays. And then Sundays, I will have several times mapped out throughout the day. Sundays will probably be 3 to 4 sessions in total. Which could also be virtual. So if a group of 4 people want to do a virtual one, those are there as well. It's an hour and 15 minutes of your time, and you won't regret it. I promise. So just be on the lookout on my site. I'll probably put that stuff up either tonight or tomorrow at some point. And
awesome.
Just want to create a community of plungers and breathers, and get this medicine out to everybody.
Yes, that's a really good way to put it, man. I was struck with the sudden urge to ask you another question.
Sure.
Why is this important to you?
Ooh. That's a fantastic question. I think it's important to me because I can see, and I have seen, how helpful it is, and how even me, I still practice it, and I hope I always practice it. I hope I never get to the I know it all. Which I don't think I ever will. But I think that returning to our technology that's within us, I'm all about healers and sound healers and crystal healing and Reiki and massage and therapy, and it's fantastic. I think everybody should dabble in all of it, and should try, deep tissue massage and sound bowls and all this stuff. Try it, go through it, experience it. But at the end of the day, and this isn't this is no different with breath work than massage therapy or anything like that. At the end of the day, we all have it within us. We have all the healing power, all the decision making, all of the, we can turn our thoughts around. We can choose to go left instead of right, or right instead of left, or up instead of down. It's all within us. And I think through breath work, at least in my experience, and I think some of the people that I've helped out, it brings that awareness.
Yeah.
It brings you back to being present with all of it. And it's just a choice. And you can make whatever choice you want, but at the end of the day too, it's your life. So you can choose to go on the enjoyable walk and do the computer thing later, or you can choose to do it now, and then the minute you're done, you can go and play with the kid, throw the ball around with the dog, have a glass of wine with your wife, watch a sunset,
and actually be there.
Be there.
That's the thing,
That's why, as a breath worker, and I know other breath workers feel this way, but like when we have the client count the breath, it's so that we can get you out of your own damn way, and you'll be present with yourself.
That's so good, man. I can't think of a better way to wrap up, man. That was awesome. I'm glad that I asked that. Sometimes those things come up and you're like, well, like, we've been going a while, and like I should ask that earlier, but like it just popped into my head and I was like, you know what, we're gonna go for it. So that was awesome, dude. Well, you guys go to Alex's site. I'll put it all in the show notes here, and I cannot stress enough that like Alex said, do whatever you want with your life. But this podcast is about getting better, right? So like this is one of the ways that you can get better, and it's free, and you can just do it. And also it is free, like you can just learn to do it on your own. But I highly recommend that you work with somebody like Alex, to have them show you like what it's like. But also it's just a really fun way to meet other people who are into stuff like this, right? Get into this community, get wrapped up. It's fun. So all right, Alex, thank you so much. Anything else before we go, man?
That's it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And all right, man, we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Slow down. There's nothing to get you